This is going to just be a quick review of regression and pivot table analysis. So I want to quickly look at how to run a regression on hours of sleep and intelligence rating. So first I'm just going to kind of just sort smallest to largest to get it looking nice. So to make the regression, I'm just going to highlight all the way down to the bottom. Once I get to the end of the data for sleep, there's no more pairs. So I'm just going to hold down the control key, that's the button right underneath the shift key. So I'm not letting go of it, and I'm going to scroll all the way up to the top. Once they're both highlighted, I'm going to go ahead and make my scatter plot, which looks like quite a mess. It's hard to look at here, so I'm going to actually move it to a new sheet. Okay, so I'll call this regression 1. And here it is. The next step is just to clean this up. We're going to put in axes, labels, and titles and make this look like a real graph. To do that, you can do it with each element here, or you can also, when you're on here, you go to Design, you can do Quick, and you can just kind of choose one and fill in the parts. Just to notice a few things I've done, I made these numbers large so you can see them from far away. I put all these things in, and notice just the size. I want to cut and paste and put that onto my slideshow. A nice little trick for doing that can sometimes make it look nice is I can just grab the snipping tool if I want, and I'm going to go to New, and I can just cut it exactly how I want it to look, which I actually think I'd recut it and get rid of those, but I'll just show this to you for now. And then I can just go ahead and put it right here. One thing to note about this is that our R-squared is very small, and this is likely to happen a lot. Sometimes when you report on this, all that you're reporting is that we do not see a correlation between hours of sleep and intelligence rating, and that is fine. One thing that could be interesting would be look a little closer at the data, and what I would do is actually sort it by just gender, A to Z, and just highlight here, along here, starting here, just all of the females, and make a chart for just females. I did this just sorting it for males, and I was able to do a graph here and show that this is the case even when we break it down by gender. We still get a very small R-squared. So in our report, we might want to say more in our presentation then, because there wasn't really interesting results in the regression. So I'm going to take a close look at intelligence. I'm going to actually build a pivot table and look at that. So with this pivot table, I'm going to look a closer look at intelligence. Now, I think it'd be more interesting to look at the value of, not the count of how many people wrote it, but the average. So I'm going to set that to average. And I think it might be interesting to look at it actually by gender and school. I'd like to break down the schools so I could compare what's happening with the genders a little better. So first, the number 7, I just can't tell what's happening, so I'm going to make those into a little bit of a decimal there. And then on my graph here, I'm going to switch it from rows to columns. So now I can look at each school, and now I can really start to see a difference. I actually don't like these colors, so I'm just going to go to, so I can go over to Format, and I'm going to come down here to Fill, and I'm going to change and make, let's make the males purple, and let's make the females a nice green. Okay, so this is looking kind of interesting to me. It might be interesting to look at some other things as well. But before I do that, notice I did put my data labels on here. I'm going to make those just a little bigger so you can really see those. It's hard to see them. Capture this image so I can go ahead and put it onto my slides. Notice I don't need to have that legend there, and I can just go ahead and put it there. I already have one, but I'll put it again. So I'm finding this kind of interesting, looking at intelligence rating and the difference between males and females across schools. I thought I'd also make a pivot table, and here I'm looking at it by grades. We're still seeing this consistently, females rate themselves lower. It's also interesting to look across race. Here's pretty interesting results you might want to take a closer look at. This level of analysis is really interesting to look at and study, and can give us something really interesting to talk about and present our data. So I hope you think about using both our regressions as well as our pivot tables to really see what is happening with your data on different levels.